For me, there's a simple rule in politics. Never, ever be surprised by what happens in politics.
The face of truth is open. The eyes of truth are bright. The lips of truth are ever closed. The head of truth is upright. The breast of truth stands forward. The gaze of truth is straight. Truth has neither fear nor doubt. Truth has patience to wait. The words of truth are touching. The voice of truth is deep. The law of truth is simple. All you sow, you reap. The soul of truth is flaming. The heart of truth is warm. The mind of truth is clear and firm through rain and storm. Facts are only its shadow. Truth stands above all sin. Great be the battle of life. Truth in the end shall win. The image of truth is the cross. Wisdom's message is its rod. The sign of truth is Christ, and the soul of truth is God. Life of truth is eternal. Immortal is its past. Power of truth shall endure. Truth shall hold to the last.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living room. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression, the inflation, and the Russians and the crying in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
We had such an exhilarating and fascinating broadcast yesterday, I felt like calling it quits. Anyway, somebody sent me a WhatsApp message just about 12:30 this afternoon before the broadcast went on the air, and it reads, "No Roro this afternoon, please. My ears and head still hurting from yesterday." What transpired on the broadcast yesterday should not be described as Roro. It was a fascinating discussion, fascinating exchange which took place on the program. And you know, NewsSpin, educational, it is never boring as well. It could be quite engaging. Welcome to another edition of the world's most monitored talk show, and that is NewsSpin on Power 97.9 FM. The broadcast is also on the NewsSpin Facebook page as well as the NewsSpin YouTube channel. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button. We go up until 2 o'clock this afternoon, and later we'll be engaging each other via your calls at 452-2979, 452-2979, your WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026, 716-2026. So our NewsSpin question of the day, in light of what transpired yesterday. Why is Richard Frederick failing to admit outright that the Senusha Labour Party sullied his reputation? Our NewsSpin question of the day, once again, why is Richard Frederick failing to admit outright that the Senusha Labour Party sullied his reputation? Because he seemed yesterday, in particular, to have aimed his ire at the deputy political leader of the opposition United Workers' Party. It is a case of the SLP in the days of yore, in particular the period from, let's say, 2005 to about 2006, when Richard Frederick first contested the by-election in March and later the general election of that year. That's when the SLP operatives, key officials of the SLP, were firing salvo after salvo after Richard Frederick because he was extremely popular then, still very popular. And he was, in a sense, not the new kid, but the new giant, the new political giant on the block. And therefore, he was seen as the individual who should be targeted, who should be decapitated. And so they went after him. And this was done in a vicious and merciless fashion. And to his credit, irrespective of the attacks, he prevailed. First winning the by-election and then winning his seat during the general election. Now he wants to take full credit for that 2006 general election, but I'd like to share it between himself and Sir John Compton, who returned at the helm of the United Workers' Party. And so from that period, 2006, up until a day like today, a certain picture has been painted of the Castries Central MP. And I think it will take more than Clorox or chemical to burnish his image, to polish it. It will take a whole lot more than that. And this is largely due to the damage that was done to his reputation by the St. Lucia Labour Party. And interesting enough, he contested the 2021 general election as independent Labour, won his seat, and to the surprise, I think, of just a few people, because many people expected that he would have tried to be a part of the SLP administration if the SLP had won, as they did. But a lot of people, I'm sure, would have said, nah, he will not stomach those guys, the likes of Philip J. Pierre and others in the St. Lucia Labour Party, those who did a number on his reputation. But he did. And as a mere mortal, up to this day, I cannot understand, despite all what was done to him by his then political rivals, he would agree to be on the same platform with those individuals, in the same cabinet, attend functions with those same former arch political rivals. I can't understand that. I really cannot. But he can afford to rub shoulders with them for one reason or the other. So I don't think that he should have taken umbrage to that extent yesterday when one of the deputy political leaders of the United Workers' Party, Dominic Feely, merely repeated some of the unfounded claims and allegations that were being made years ago by the St. Lucia Labour Party. Because Dominic Feely is not the author of that picture. He was not the individual who painted that picture of the Castries Central MP. So let's listen to Dominic Feely as he called into yesterday's NewsSpin program.
The St. Lucia Labour Party comrades, which have embraced him, are the ones who have said that he is the most frightening thing to have happened to the politics of this country. Tim, the St. Lucia Labour Party comrades who has accused him of drug trafficking and money laundering, they are the ones who said, Tim, that the U.S. revoked his visa for those reasons.
Well, those
And
are
when Stephen
those
King,
are allegations, Chief. Those are allegations,
but
and
I'm stating this fact.
and he got his visas back, his visa back, as far as I'm aware. He got his visa back.
Yeah. So when Stephen King said that he wasn't aware why the United States government revoked the visa, Tim, the St. Lucia Labour Party officials then said that Stephen King, who was Richard Frederick's best buddy, knew everything and knew the reasons why. And there are stories about him sending Janine Compton to the U.S. to find out what they had on Richard Frederick. All of this is well documented in the annals of our history.
And in response, Richard Frederick was scathing in his response. But we'll just play you just part of how he reacted to Dominic Fede, and in particular, the fact that the question I posed to him about the SLP tarnishing his reputation. The label as being attached to you, all right, of being involved in criminality, etc. Don't you think that you could look to the St. Lucia Labour Party? They are chiefly responsible for this. You're
asking me? No. Let me just say this, team. I don't know who is or who is not responsible. I came into politics. I made money by being a criminal lawyer. Invariably, your clients were those who basically transgressed the law, and you ameliorated the situation in whatever way you can to minimize whatever penalty they probably would have faced in the eyes of the law. I have no qualms with that. I did what I had to do as a professional. But you see, the sad thing is, persons have gone unhinged. They have gone on a limb. When you tell me a man like Dominic Fede, I just call my contact and say, go to the archives and give me stuff on Dominic Fede.
Okay,
Dominic Fede. There are certain persons. Hold on,
Mr. Frederick, you're not answering the
Bible.
You're not answering the question. The question is, when you came into office...
You're asking me who's responsible. Yeah, I cannot say...
In 2006, you know what you were subjected to by the St. Lucia Labour Party.
Of course I know what I was subjected to.
And what was said about you? What was said about you?
Of course I do.
Yeah.
And Tim, what makes it grossly worse is that at that time, the very United Workers' Party supporters, Alan Shastney was nowhere around, Dominic Fede was nowhere around, and I dare say categorically, those two foreigners, those two non-born St. Lucians were nowhere around when I was taking the heat for the United Workers' Party. Where were they? Today, they have joined the fray. And I'm not telling you, no. I am not saying that the Labour Party did not tarnish me or did not start the tarnishment of my reputation. I'm not saying no.
MP for Castries Central, during my conversation with him on yesterday's NewsSpin program. Later, I'll be hearing from Rosh Clark, who is the United Workers' Party candidate for that constituency, and we have a whole lot more as we segue into SWF, and that is Sovereign Wealth Fund. We've been hearing a lot about this over the last few days from the island's Prime Minister, Minister with responsibility for finance. But even before that, it was a few years ago that we heard from the leader of the parliamentary opposition, Mr. Alan Shastney, making reference to an SWF, Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Because of the exogenous shocks that are coming fast and furious, 9/11, recession in the mid-2000s, climate change, the pandemic, and now what's taking place with the Ukraine war and the supply chain issues, we as small island developing state countries are going to be always exposed to them. If you have to borrow money every single time you have an exogenous shock, you're going to get into a spiral of debt. So the goal was to create a wealth fund that could act as a source of monies in times of catastrophe. More importantly, raise the wealth profile of our country, and certainly monies that could be used to either buy bonds or invest in critical assets of this country.
Speaking in June of 2022, just so there from the leader of the parliamentary opposition. Let us hear now from Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre addressing a pre-cabinet briefing on the intention of the government to set up a sovereign wealth fund.
We have one thing I want to tell you, which is something that is very good for the country. It's a sovereign wealth fund. The country, the government is going to pass within this legislative year. If not, within it very early next year, in April or May, but the cabinet is going to approve a sovereign wealth fund for the country. The sovereign wealth fund means that the country is going to use the resources to save for the future generation, to create a basis for the country having some reserves in terms of investment so that can be used for the future. I'm very excited about it, the sovereign wealth fund. It shows that we want to have a legacy of savings. This government wants to create a legacy of wealth creation in this country. Not only a legacy of physical things, a legacy of wealth creation. And that legacy of wealth creation means that a country, a small country with limited resources, can put something aside for the future.
You just heard there from the island's Prime Minister and Minister with responsibility for finance on plans to establish a sovereign wealth fund. And this has been approved by the island's cabinet. Only recently this was done. Let us listen to the press secretary to the island's Prime Minister, Melissa Paul, again speaking on the whole sovereign wealth fund issue.
Cabinet has approved the creation of the Sovereign Wealth Fund of St. Lucia, and this is a forward-thinking public investments fund designed not only to secure sustainable economic development, but also to bolster our climate resilience. And here are some characteristics of the fund. The Sovereign Wealth Fund's objectives shall be to support investments in climate adaptation and mitigation, in addition to sustainable economic development. The Sovereign Wealth Fund will be a public fund managed by a board which shall be a corporate body. The board shall devise investment guidelines that bind the performance of the investment manager, and that these guidelines should prioritize the following principles. A, that a high return target be the primary motivator to the prior attainment of set thresholds. B, that thresholds to trigger non-investment withdrawals be defined, with these triggers being tied to portfolio size relative to GDP. C, that the fund be invested according to the environmental, social, and governance (ESG) principles. D, the derivatives and similar instruments be used only for hedging purposes. And 4, that the resources of the fund shall consist of such funds as may be allocated by the minister to the fund on its commencement. As the government establishes this vehicle for national development, it is crucial to recognize the transformative power of savings. This fund sets an example for St. Lucians to save and invest in the future. And I would be happy to provide more information on the Sovereign Wealth Fund. What you can do if you have any questions, just send me an email.
Press Secretary to the Prime Minister, Melissa Paul, on the Sovereign Wealth Fund. So there's need for further clarification, elucidation, public education on this particular issue. So NewsSpin will take the charge on it. Joining the broadcast is Chartered Accountant, Mr. Richard Pitterkin. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, Tim. Don't forget to say retired.
Retired. So that means you're not even doing private work?
Well, I'm doing private work,
but
in fact, it means I have now the time to research.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak with us on this subject, sir. Sovereign Wealth Fund. What is this all about? Because I know among the countries that have one, the countries which have a sovereign wealth fund would be Kuwait. Norway is one such country as well.
Well, there are actually quite a few. not just those two you mentioned. Norway is probably the best known in terms of how well they do. But, even Trinidad and Tobago has one. And so it's not unusual. I think if there is a group called the International Working Group of Sovereign Wealth Funds, and they have quite a lot of information on their website. And they list all the countries that have funds. And as I say, there are quite a few. And the purpose of the fund, to some extent, if you look at their website, it's similar to what was just read out there from the Prime Minister's Secretary in respect of creating investment funds or arrangements that are owned by the general government, created for macroeconomic purposes, etc., etc. So nothing unusual about the creation of a sovereign wealth fund.
So what is it all about, in layman terms?
Well, when I saw the news and I saw it on the government's website as was just read out, I was a little curious because, interestingly, within the last week, President Trump has signed an executive order to create the U.S.'s first sovereign wealth fund, but in his case, aiming to invest in infrastructure, medical research, even to buy TikTok. But basically, the difference there is that fund will be overseen just by two people, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. So essentially, that means they can determine how that money is allocated. In respect of sovereign wealth funds that are set up in other parts of the world, that is generally done either in some cases by a separate fund set up by either the Constitution or by a government created body, like in this case I think it's a company, whatever, and the expenditure is controlled by essentially what that body would have in its preamble and its the regulations that were used to set it up. So as I say, it's not unusual. It's amusing to see the U.S. doing one. Interestingly, though, in many instances, sovereign wealth funds are actually funded by surpluses that the country makes. So in other words, it's like, you make a little bit of money, you put some aside. And if that's a surplus, that's great. The U.S. doesn't make a surplus. They make a deficit every year. St. Lucia doesn't make a surplus. We'd have deficits forever. So obviously, the funding is not coming from surpluses. And what the Prime Minister is saying here, or at least the government, is that the fund will be set up by an allocation in the budget every year, and the monies would be put aside there. So, as it says in point number 4, consists of such funds as may be allocated by the minister to the fund on its commencement. So the question of where that money will come from, it's either going to be an allocation in the budget, so it's a line item, or potentially it could be, for example, from CIP funds. But again, it would be a line item in the budget. My belief is that it will be a capital expenditure. So you'll see it under the heading of capital expenditure. And the amount will be specified every year. So to the extent that, the money is approved, the budget is approved, it means that government will put the money into that fund, whether it be monthly, quarterly, whatever, to set it up for its specific purposes. And so from that point of view, it's not unusual in the sense of, if you may remember in the past, we have had a few instances where, as a line item in the government, there was a thing called a contingency fund. And that was to put aside money to pay down our debt when it became due. Now, the difference here is that contingency fund was entirely at the what shall I say, government or cabinet or the minister was the one who would determine if and when or that would be put in. In this case, they are setting up, or it seems that they set up a company and a different board in order to make those decisions. So, as I say, it's in a sense a saving fund at the end of the day.
Can we look at the pros and cons? What are the risks involved in setting up this sovereign wealth fund? Because the state's resources, financial resources, would be utilized to invest, and invest in what? Maybe stocks, bonds, real estate?
Yeah, it specializes where the investments will be. Um, and it clearly says the type of investments which would presumably be high returns, and not risky investments. For example, look at the NIS. The NIS has an investment portfolio and an investment committee, and they put money into instruments that will hopefully give them the type of return they need to pay pensions in the future. So if government is setting aside money,
as was done with Cabot.
sorry,
As was done with Cabot.
nice try, Tim.
It's not a try, as was done with Cabot.
Yeah, but it did not necessarily come from that, because the NIS can still put money from normal resources. It doesn't have to come to investment fund. But yes, I think the Cabot loan would have been part of their investment portfolio. You're correct.
But why do you think that there's not been sufficient, from my estimation, sufficient public education on this? Is the government assuming that people understand what is a sovereign wealth fund?
Well, if that is their assumption, then they would need to do a lot more work, because one of the problems we have in the country is literacy, understanding of how things work, what it's all about. And what we do have is a great mistrust.
Do you think that's the problem, or it's lack of public education? Not everyone knows about what's an SW.
It's not public education.
What's an SWF?
It's financial literacy, which should start in schools, because there is a lot of public educational things, and then people will complain about it, and you can point them to where it was publicized, where there was consultation. People don't necessarily listen, but this is just a start. So I think they do have to have quite a bit more information, because there are clearly, as you say, some risks, and they have to make sure people now don't trust government. They don't trust the government or the opposition party. They believe that politicians just feather the nest, and anytime they see something being set up to put tax money aside, there is suspicion. And so to that extent, any government with this sort has to ensure that let people understand exactly how this is being done, and feel a little more comfortable that the risks are being addressed.
Now, in the interest of transparency, do you think that there's a possibility, all things considered in St. Lucia, because we've had our experiences over several years now, that this system can be abused if there isn't the necessary checks and balances? Another set of people can garner wealth through this sovereign wealth fund, all in the name of investing our resources on behalf of the people of St. Lucia.
There will always be risks, if there are insufficient checks and balances. And the checks and balances in this instance, so bear in mind, okay, it's part of the budget, but the decision as to how money is spent is not entirely up to the minister. It's up to a board. So now the next question is, okay, who appoints the board? And that will more than likely be government. And then, are the people appointed independent and reliable, and people that know what to do? And so they won't just make decisions to spend the money vaci-vi, and not in accordance with the objectives that are being set up here. So that's the risk. So the question is, and that is not addressed, it doesn't say how the board is going to be set up. My own feeling is that what this board should include, obviously members of government, or somebody from government, somebody from the opposition, somebody from the private sector that is familiar with the whole question of investment of money, and others that people will feel comfortable that they can look after, what may well be the money of the people of St. Lucia. And if that is done, then people may have a little more confidence that this, in fact, is not going to be money that is going to be spent on, irrelevant things, or things that do not benefit the country as a whole.
Considering,
now, by the way, I should say that I could think of a good retired chartered accountant that would be happy to take on the job as the chairman.
With the initials RP.
But, well, I don't know.
Yeah. But let me ask you, do you think it have made, I know that we have limited financial resources at our disposal right now, and maybe the funds that we have put aside to set up a contingency fund will now be utilized to set up this, to invest in this sovereign wealth fund. Would it have made more sense in the era of green gold to have done that?
When you say more sense,
would have been more financially prudent?
So
have set up a sovereign wealth fund in that era?
Well, I think that, first of all, this is not being done by our constitution. So to that extent, what happens, as happens with any capital expenditure in a budget, if there is no money to put in the fund, they can simply say, sorry, we couldn't put it in. There was no money for that. The same with capital expenditure. If there's no money to do a road, they don't have to do it. There's no constitutional requirement that this amount be put in and set aside. You remember, for example, the lockbox arrangement that we had for monies, on exit taxes, etc. There is no similar situation here. So it would be good, I would have thought, that there would be some kind of a lockbox arrangement that said that once that money is put in the fund, cannot be touched by the minister or by cabinet, only by the board, and with a set of principles. You could even build in an additional thing and say, the policy and the actual amount of disbursements should be approved in Parliament. That could be a requirement, for example, to at least, that they could not just spend the money without, but yes, there will always be a danger, and the danger can only be addressed by the guardrails that you put in when you create this board, and the authority under which that board has, and the objectives and the requirements before that money is spent. So bear in mind, for example, under CIP, there was supposed to be a similar type of arrangement that the CIP monies would, in order to be spent, there would be a lot of transparency as to how what money was being received and where the money was spent. And I think all we're really seeing now is that, in fact, in the budget, you will see certain line items, and where's the money coming from? It'll say CIP. But to that extent, it's not the same thing as coming to Parliament each and every time. That may be a little impractical, but at least, some guidelines. So it is important in today's, level of mistrust that we don't get this thing wrong. If this is going to work, and it is not, as I say, unusual, and in fact, if you look at the International Forum of Sovereign Wealth Funds, there is such an entity, and they have something called the Santiago Principles, and they show you a lot of best practices, how these funds should be set up, how they should be handled, and how they should be spent. The difference only, every country will have a different objective as to where they want that money to go. In this case, the government says climate adaptation and mitigation, and then in addition to sustainable economic development. That's a broad area there, because sustainable economic development can be anything from budget support to infrastructure, if you know what I mean. So in some cases, sovereign wealth funds may say this can only be spent on X, Y, or Z, but this one seems to be reasonably broad. So now we're therefore left. It's up to the guardrails that are put in for the board's management and the board's expenditure to make sure that this money is not wasted on things that are not long term.
Finally, sir, ensuring that there are the necessary checks and balances, we cannot always leave it to the public sector or government agencies to do that on our behalf. What about the NGO community in St. Lucia doing this in defense of the patrimony of the St. Lucian public? Because those resources belong to the state, and this maybe is akin to being a shareholder in a company whereby you need to get dividends at some point in time.
Yes, but you see, the government will always say that, first of all, put aside NGO for the meantime, they would always see that the government are people elected by the people to look after certain things. So to that extent, that they have been given a task to do, and one of those tasks was to make sure that the monies that the government has put aside or gets from taxation, etc.
So therefore, Mr. Peterkin, the people have a say only at the election time every 5 years?
If it comes to the setting up of a fund, yes, because once it's set up now, the only time it will be changed if people are concerned about something is if people make enough noise, or if there's a change of government and the new government decides, as they have done, for example, with CIP, no, we want to handle it a different way. So to that extent, whatever is set up now is in fact something which this government will say, we have in essence the mandate to look after the monies of the state, and we are doing it, we think, in a responsible way and setting it up, to be run by a public fund managed by a board. So the big issue is how public, how transparent, how well managed, who are going to be the people. Now, to go to NGOs, there is no NGO big enough to handle something like this. If you want to call the NIS an NGO, you could have said, well, okay, why don't we put it into the NIS and let the NIS manage it, because they have a board and a this and a that, and they are into investments. But then you're going to have to change the NIS articles and everything like that for them to do so, and their main motive is more to do with pensions. So that's not really something that would fall under the NIS. In fact, one of the economic development issues could well be putting money in to pay for the pensions of government employees, because their pension funds in the past were never funded. So as people come to their retirement, they have never been putting money in the NIS. They do now, but they never did in the past. So we have to find that money from current resources, and this fund could well be one of those if it was a burden in any particular year. But I'm just using that as an example. So I don't think an NGO is the answer. We have a lot of small NGOs, and they're not. I don't think it would be safe to have that to an NGO. And who elects the NGO, et cetera, et cetera. I think it comes back to a question of how well, what the type of board they use, the people that they put on it, and whether, in fact, it's transparent enough so people feel satisfied and confident that the money is not going to be abused.
Any final comments from you, sir?
Well, none, except that, as I say, this is something that happens all over the world. There are lots of principles, like the Santiago principles I mentioned to you, and there's no reason why, if they follow these and have a board with people on it that people are, let's just say, confident in, they will do the job properly, that, in fact, it cannot work. But, the question of how much we need to put aside every year, I understand that, in fact, we had a current account surplus in 2024. That's good. That means that we can actually use some of our own surpluses to pay down on, or at least towards capital projects. This is going to be probably a capital project in its nature. So I think overall, I don't see a problem in it. I know that, there's been a lot of concern about CIP and the transparency and the expenditure. And I hope that's taken into consideration when they set up the board and when they populate the board, so that people will feel, okay, this is not another problem where we are suspicious about the use of the money. And that, because here we are on the verge of an election. So if now a board is appointed and for whatever reason it looks like it's a bunch of government cronies, then that's going to work against them in the election.
Thank you so much for agreeing to speak with us on the SWF Sovereign Wealth Fund, Mr. Richard Pittican, retired chartered accountant.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
All right, welcome, sir. Once again, thank you so much for speaking with us on this subject. This is the most monitored talk show in the world. Still to come, your calls at 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. And Amanda will be going through some of your comments in the chat room.
It all started with a penny. For over 85 years, we have invested in our farmers, fishermen, people, and our country. When we were called to serve, we were here. We understand what is valuable to our people and our country. That is why we support all industries, including tourism. We are the bridge towards a brighter future and economic growth. When our people, government, and businesses called upon us, we were here. 85 years later, First National Bank St. Lucia Limited is here for you.
Lazarus's Funeral Home is here for you. Lazarus's Private Cemetery offers a peaceful resting place for your loved ones. With tranquil settings, visitation, and reflection, we believe in the compassionate care of all our departed loved ones. Lazarus's Private Cemetery, let us help you create a final resting place. Make it special. Make it Lazarus's Funeral Home, your friend in a time of need. payment plans are available for Toombs. Call us in Vidbuta at 452-7491 or in New Dock Road, VA4, 454-6555.
NewsSpin is transforming how you move. With our new electric vehicle charging stations, getting a quick and reliable charge is easier than ever. From Rodney Bay to Dennery, Vieux-Fort and Soufriere, we've got you covered. Our cutting-edge network offers both fast and standard charging options. Convenient, efficient, and always ready when you are. Just download the Flash Charge app from Google Play or the Apple App Store, and with a few simple taps, you can set up an account and link it to a credit card. Find a station or scan the QR code to start charging in seconds. Lucidec is powering your journey and driving us toward a cleaner, greener future. Charge ahead with Lucidec's EV stations. Lucidec electric vehicle chargers, powering progress, energizing the future.
You know that feeling when you have an uncontrollable desire for fried chicken? That's the KFC. A substance that stimulates your senses to identify the aroma of a secret recipe or an extra crispy crunch from any distance. It's invisible to the naked eye, but you can feel it traveling throughout your body, taking control. All so you can enjoy a juicy bite of KFC. Ignite your senses with KFC.
And you got it. A quicker way to pay your bills online. It's fast, secure, and easy to use. No registration, no additional fees. Flow is now offering FastPay, an online service that allows you to settle your bills in less than 2 minutes. Need a receipt? FastPay will send it to your email immediately. Use FastPay now for convenience, safety, and efficiency at discoverflow.co/fastpay. Flow is keeping you connected.
Ouais, messieurs. Aujourd'hui, moi la KSP plein bon glow. Si t'en la pani pressure. Moi ni tongue, moi ni glow, me money pressure. Ou savez ça moi besoin? A pomme. Ça c'est bêtise. Moi ka aller ko Europa. Yo ni toute pomme pour toute condition. Qui pour kay, qui pour business. Yo ni pli mer pour pomme cette ici. Yo ka ranger pomme aussi qui besoin service. Run pump yo c'est Léo. Pump ça c'est Major. Ils bon tout bonnement. Tant si ten moins actuellement. Glo ka fante. Europa ni pump glo Léo en de couleur neuf, orange et gris. Visitez Europa à Massad Gozile. Les mots au téléphone 452 0763.
Are you tired of going from doctor to doctor, spending time and money, yet still not getting the answers you need? Now, at La Clinique du Corps Diagnostic Center of Excellence, we bring you the latest in medical technology, our state-of-the-art radiation-free full-body MRI. With unmatched accuracy, we can detect illnesses early, giving you the answers you deserve and the treatment you need, saving lives and saving money. No doctor referral needed. Results in just 24 to 48 hours. Plus, a free consultation with a doctor to explain all your results in detail. Don't wait. Take advantage of this special offer and book your full body MRI at our Cocoville, Rodney Bay.
It's the Tile Thursday specials. The sale you've been waiting for is finally here, happening this Thursday at the Tile Gallery. Whether you're renovating your kitchen, bathroom, or updating your entire home, don't miss out on the chance to save big on high-quality tiles that will elevate any space. Mark your calendars for Tile Thursday specials, the last Thursday of every month. You can save up to 50% off on selected tiles. Located at M&C Home Depot in Sunville. Hurry in! These amazing deals are in store only, and supplies are limited, so be sure to grab yours while you can. Remember, Tile Thursday only happens once a month, so don't miss out. Visit the Tile Gallery this Thursday. See in store for details.
Essie, don't tell me that tire flat again. I just changed that tire.
Wait, what? You just changed that tire?
Well, I bought a used one because you didn't give me enough money.
Oh, I see. Well, you know what? Chivi's Tire Shop only carry brand new quality tires at affordable prices with free installation.
Hey, it seems you're working at Chivi's Tire Shop. How you know all that?
Come on, Brenda. The tire shop down the road from our home in the American Drywall Building.
Oh, yes. I forgot. Well, you know what, Patrick? Let's go there right now. Take your wallet. Let's go.
Shivi's Tire Shop, located at the American Drywall Building, Vic Butey. Call or WhatsApp 584-5986. Shivi's Tire Shop. Pay less, drive more.
This one will be the biggest ever! It's Legacy 2025, the Independence Edition, featuring two of the Caribbean's greatest icons, the soca queen herself, Alison Hines. Alison Hines! And the region's groovy master, the man with the most groovy hits ever, Rupee! The St. Lucian Giants, King Sly. Calypso Legends, Papa Vader, King Ashanti, Robbie, the grand return of Alpha. Legacy 2025 is gonna be amazing. Saturday, February 8th, 8 p.m. at the Pavilion. Limited early bird $100, regular $120. Tickets available at Steve's Barbershop and The Wave. Sponsored by KFC, Republic Bank, Massey Stores, IBS Solution, Climax, Peter Bear, First Citizen, Flow, and the Independence Committee.
Look at people!
This is the most monitored talk show in the world. It is called the NewsSpin on Power 97.9 FM. The broadcast is also on the NewsSpin Facebook page as well as the YouTube channel. We open the lines right now to take your calls at 452-2979. That's 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. Our first call via WhatsApp. Good afternoon to you. You are on the air. Hello.
Tim, I have a brief contribution.
Go ahead, sir.
At the press conference yesterday, Spider was asked about the decline in homicide rates between January 2024 and January 2025, and his response, and that's a direct quote, he said, "I think it is a little bit early to talk about a decline in the rate of homicides. We have become so used to having so many per month that we are now in the first month of the year talking about a decrease. Let us not forget that we just came off a record-breaking year." Tim, how encouraging is that statement? The St. Lucian public, I mean, we're not naive to believe that after 1 month, the crime situation is solved, but every day we don't have a homicide in St. Lucia is a good day. So I'm 100% refuting that statement made by Spider, and I'm going to give him a tutorial on how to answer that question and stop politicizing crime. So this is what he should have said. The increased police presence seems to be disrupting potential crimes from occurring. The police is doing a better job at publicizing arrest, which deters crime. I would like to thank the police for their commitment to keeping St. Lucia safe and by extension the general public for their assistance. Yes, it is too early to make any predictions about how crime is trending, but we will continue to monitor this and hope that this becomes consistent. That's what he should have done. Have a good day.
Thank you so much for sharing your point of view with us. 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. What's happening in the chat room? Amanda, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Tim. Good afternoon, NewsSpinners. Someone says, I don't trust this guy. Tim, the man dropped a hint for you. He already asked for the job of chairman. Maybe he has his unlock already. You have to keep your eye on these so-called neutral people. Another comment reads, come on, Tim, waiting patiently to hear those calling to free Barabbas. Another comment reads, he wants to be accepted in the SLP camp so he can get back at Alan Chasney, so he will never admit the SLP government destroyed him. Someone says it takes a man who is not born in St. Lucia to put RF in his place. Bravo to Fede. Another comment reads, so he has files on everyone in his archives. Someone says, in the legal world, that is called evasion. The comment reads, St. Lucia has never had a budget surplus and don't have materials to create a sovereign wealth fund, so that is another con job by the Prime Minister. Another comment, RF is talking about foreigners. Please tell us to whom the CIP passports were sold to. Is it to citizens or foreigners? So if it's for foreigners, are you saying that you don't want them in the country, but you sold the passports to foreigners? Another comment, you can see the election around the corner. Someone says here, John Compton was initially firm in his stance against endorsing Richard Frederick, citing strong concerns regarding Richard Frederick's alleged unethical character, which raised doubts about his integrity and suitability as a candidate. However, after facing significant pressure from influential party members, Sir John reluctantly changed his position and agreed to support Richard. Alan Chasney made the right decision to dismiss Richard from the party. Another comment reads, creating a sovereign wealth fund is vital to invest public resources, a state-owned pool of money and resources productively from cronyism. Another comment reads, the government itself does not even understand what a sovereign wealth fund is. Someone says, we have no idea what's going on with the CIP funds. Here comes another fund that St. Lucians will have no idea what the money is going to.
We have a call via WhatsApp. Good afternoon, NewsSpin. You are on the air.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon to you, caller.
Good afternoon to your...
to Amanda.
Yes.
Good afternoon, caller.
Tim, your first caller, tell him if he does not know how to hold a wicket, don't go and bat first. Okay? The other thing, I hope that he has some good advice for the opposition, not the opposition, but the Prime Minister, so that he can share with him how to answer questions and stop giggling every time they ask him a question in a press conference. Okay? The other thing about, I thought Philip JP was coming with everything original. I guess it proves to us that they never had any plan in the first place. Now you come in with something that we have heard before and trying to make it original. Didn't hear it from Alan first. Then he could have also said that this was a good idea that the opposition had and will take it and will implement it. But now it's been looked as if it's his original plan. The other thing before I go, Tim, when a bully is cornered, a bully will do you mischief every day. But the moment you stand up and you face him, he will not know where to turn and what to do. He will still try to intimidate you, thinking that that tactic will still work. But the moment he realizes it cannot work, he literally goes into self-destruct. And that is what Richard Frederick is right now. Nothing but a bully. Okay? Richard Frederick is crying before anybody says something about him. But I remember Richard Frederick attacking me personally based on the fact he does not even know me, but based on the fact that I made a comment on Facebook. And he after he attacked me on Facebook, he went on his show. He could not get anything about me, but just to say where I used to work before and whatnot. And you look at these kind of people in our society who are supposed to be leaders. And you know what that kills me the most? You have people who know better that will stand up and that will defend these fellas, that will make it look like they're so righteous when they know. And the bad thing about it, Tim, these were the same people but these were the same people who blacklist him. And today, when you hear them, all they can say is Richard Frederick. But you all were the ones who blacklist him. You all were the one who call him all kind of names. You understand? And the saddest thing about it, again, this man is coming on radio making it look like he's such a victim today. Richard Frederick think people does not listen and watch what's happening in this country. He think it's everybody that's daft as some of the people that he have around him. Sorry for using that. But at the end of the day, Tim, we are not stupid. You understand? We hear you every day. You cursing in parliament. You understand? You bullying people all over the place, calling women all kind of names. And today, you want to come and make it look like you're such a victim, whether it be allegations or not. But just the things that you have been saying alone paint you in a very bad light. You understand? We exclude all the allegations and just take the things that Richard Frederick have been saying on his shows and the attacks on the citizens alone. Team is enough. Is enough for somebody to describe him as whatever they want. I usually don't attack Richard Frederick. I usually don't have anything to say about this one because as far as I'm concerned, Richard Frederick is a non-entity. Okay, he's nothing but wind in my ears. But at the end of the day, you can't come on NewsSpin. Say that on your show. If it was on your show, I wouldn't say anything. But don't come on NewsSpin and you spew that garbage when everybody knows who you are. Everybody knows about you. You on your show every day telling people who you are. You understand? That is all we need to describe you. Have a good day.
You too, sir. Thank you so much for calling. Another call. Good afternoon to you. This is NewsSpin. You're on the air. Hello. That call is reconnecting. Let's see if we get it on the air anytime from now. Hello. Okay, so we'll have to try another call at 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. Let's see if we get this call on the air. No, we have missed this call, but continue to call us. Let's see. We have another call via WhatsApp. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
I agree with the last caller, That's the type of person Richard is. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for calling. 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. Then a call on WhatsApp. Good afternoon. You're on the air. Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Yes. Good afternoon to you, caller. Loud and clear.
Yes. Okay. I would just like to speak on the sovereign
wealth fund.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, caller. Go ahead, please.
I would just like to speak on the sovereign wealth fund.
Mm-hmm.
And the first area is where will the sources of the funds come from? Hello?
Okay, the device that you're using, please turn it off, sir. It is confusing you and it's causing a delay. All right, so
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
First, we have to determine the sources of those funds or the money to be in that sovereign wealth fund. They normally come from surplus reserves, from state-owned natural resource revenues, from trade surpluses. That means that we exported more than we imported. They will come from bank reserves that may accumulate from budgeting excesses, from foreign currency operations, money from privatization, and also governmental transfer payments. In general, they normally have to have targeted purposes. For instance, but in St. Lucia's case, we have to look at whether the government is experiencing surpluses in its budget. Now, when we say experience surplus in its budget, it means that everything is up to date. Your roads, electricity, all your public facilities are up to date and properly maintained. After you have done that, then whatever surplus you have, which was generated more from exports, then you could put that into a sovereign fund. Now, that sovereign fund will have to generate interest, placed in an area where it can generate greater interest than your current debt. In other words, that is another option for having that sovereign fund. Thirdly, the sovereign fund can be used to leverage entrepreneurs on the island. For instance, if someone wants to go into hotel construction for $100 million, then the government can say, okay, we are putting in 25% towards that amount, or 25 million, and we want a return on our investment of 20%. So the sovereign fund continues to generate revenue based on the performance of that project. So we have to look at the pros and cons of it. And also, for instance, some of the countries that have sovereign funds, like Norway, is $1.7 trillion, China, 1.3 trillion, and Safe Investment is 1 trillion. Abu Dhabi has $1 trillion in a sovereign fund. It's a good idea. We need to be more creative and innovative, but we have to look at ensure that there is not political victimization, political discrimination, and it must be a fund that must be or should be supported by both political parties. And the best way for that to be implemented is for there to be a meeting of the minds between government and the opposition parties to ensure that come an election and there are changes to government, that this fund will not be disrupted like we have at Iwanura Airport and other facilities. But it will be a good platform to leverage funds for local entrepreneurs who want to go into massive projects, not just the Djibouti project, but the massive projects. And secondly, the infrastructure of the island, the debt servicing of the island must not be sacrificed as a result of redirecting funds towards that sovereign fund. And when Sir John left politics, or he was outside in 1997, for example, Lucilec had $25 million there in dividends for the government of St. Lucia, which Sir John never touched. Now that source can go into a sovereign fund. So these are some of the examples we can see where that fund is coming from. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to hear from you, sir. So the record definitely will show that we started this whole discussion on public education on the Sovereign Wealth Fund. So we'll be sending our bill, an invoice, to the Office of the Prime Minister and directly to the Finance Minister, Mr. Philip J. Pierre. What is happening in the chat room? Amanda.
A comment here reads, some sovereign wealth funds may be held by a central bank, which accumulates the funds in the course of its management of a nation's banking system. Another comment, the long-term financial health of the government of St. Lucia and financial leadership of the Sovereign Wealth Fund will require strategic leadership and financial markets modeling with a global perspective, not a government or minister-controlled board. Another comment, we all swear that the police are doing their best. Go tell your PM how to address the nation. Spider is not in government. Everyone is saying they are happy with what the police is doing. Spider doesn't need no lecture. Another comment reads, one day when Richard putting out someone files, he will put out his mistake. Another comment, St. Lucia cannot afford this fund right now. Bearing in mind we have been operating on a deficit. Where are the funds going to come from? Why don't you spell it out and say it's through more taxes? And someone said, agreed, a country probably can't have... Bear with me, Tim.
Anytime.
Okay, I will have to skip this comment. Another comment in the chat room reads, it is a good idea, but it is not the right time for, as we have no budget, surplus, bad infrastructure, and healthcare, etc. That's it for me, Tim.
All right. Thank you so much for that update. Let's see if we have another call via WhatsApp. Good afternoon. This is NewsSpin. You're on the air. Hello.
Hi, Tim.
Hi. Good afternoon to you.
Hi, Tim.
Good afternoon.
Hi. Thank you. This is Dominic Fede. I apologize for calling you 2 consecutive days.
That's okay, sir.
I did plan to call you on Friday because the housing minister says he was going to go on his show to say certain things about me, and I feel obliged to respond on Friday. But I'm intrigued nonetheless, Tim, by your question of the day. And it is this. It says, why is Richard Frederick failing to admit outright that the St. Lucia Labour Party sullied his reputation? Tim, I want you to bear with me while I read for you just a few lines. You would be familiar with this because you are very much aware that I did have a media background like you. In fact, you were my boss. Many people didn't know that. And we work together in media life. But Tim, do you recall these words? And I'm sure that as I read them, you will know who wrote them. So it says, just as the drug trade has blossomed, so too has the professional practice to protect drug traffickers, launderers, and their hitmen. There are lawyers who are willing conduits, rather, of money launderers, and who utilize their client accounts to protect proceeds of drug trafficking, and who are themselves in receipt of such proceeds for personal benefit. Legal professional privilege has become a cloak to cover criminal conduct. The profession is being criminalized while others watch helplessly. Tim, do you remember this excerpt from Kenny Anthony's lecture to the Norman Manley School of Law at the Mona campus in Jamaica?
Yes, I can recall. Yes, I can recall. I can.
Because,
yes.
Because you read this on the former station that you worked.
Mm-hmm.
And Richard Frederick, in his rather traditional, outrageous way, called you making a lot of noise, carrying on. And you said to him, why are you making such noise? And I want to spark your memory. You said, this does not mention you. It doesn't mention anyone. Why are you so dramatic about this? And then, I don't know if you remembered what he said to you. Do you remember too?
This was eons ago, sir, so I can't remember too clearly. I'll have to review the
you're
tapes.
Younger than that, you know.
I'll have
You're
to review the
much younger
tapes.
than that. Yes, and then you went on to say, look, you said to him, he said to you that Kenny Anthony was mentioning this and is talking about him because Kenny Anthony had picked up through the grapevine that he, Richard Frederick, was about to enter local politics. You recall now?
Yes, yeah.
You recall that now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You see how sharp my memory is, Tim? And so it is very clear, Tim, who are the people responsible. But before I go on to say that, I must tell you that before you can speak of, or someone can sully your reputation, you must first start with a clean reputation, Tim, because you can only sully my reputation if it's clean. So the question is, did the SLP then made famous a reputation that already exists, or did the SLP just played the number one, what was on the chart in St. Lucian culture? But for Richard Frederick to pretend as if he's confused as to who has continued to damage and pour scorn on his reputation, it is to say that he's in denial. He's burying his head in the sand as an ostrich. And Tim, I'm hearing those people who are calling you on your show and talking about sovereign wealth fund. I want to say to them, how could you be comfortable working with a government that has such a character in its midst, working out of the office of the Prime Minister? You see, Tim, this kind of hypocrisy from people is what leads to us not solving the problems. And I've heard both those callers who called you and spoke about the need for a sovereign wealth fund. I have my own opinions on it, and I'll share that on another day. But it's to say, Tim, that they both admitted that the political will for this to work must exist, and it must be consistent across the two parties. I put the question to them. Do they believe with a character like Richard Frederick at the table making the decision and in helping to influence in which area the sovereign wealth fund should invest in, whether they believe that it will be pure? I mean, could you imagine sitting on the board and then the cabinet comes up with a bizarre position and tells you that you need to, despite your own professional judgment, that you need to sway the sovereign wealth fund in a certain way? Tim, I have said before on your show that Alan Shastney Alan Chasney, and this is very, 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 I want you to listen to this. The CIP National Economic Fund, which was established by Alan Chasney, the governance of it was so strong that what he did, Tim, is that he said that Cabinet will not make the final decision on the fund, but who will make a final decision as to what a capital project is the board of the CIP. And this was made up of finance professionals, civil servants, and people of the like. But there's not enough detail yet for me to say how successful this fund is going to be. But I'm going to caution people that the politics must be right in the country. And so to be in denial when you've got a guy who is obviously influencing the prime minister, how can anything work? When you've got a guy who's going on television and saying that he has asked the SSU to go do a patrol, how can any institution in this country function properly when you've got such influences that are coming out of the cabinet? But Tim, it says to me that Philip Pear is a weak leader, because every single prime minister before him, I mean, Richard talks about John Compton, and I heard the clip you played, and, presents himself as if he was a great friend of John Compton. I mean, Tim, those people who went to the funeral will tell you that John Compton's family wanted Richard Frederick nowhere close to his casket. Fact, nowhere close to his casket. And he forgets that Compton was almost blackmailed into selecting him as the candidate for Castries Central. But we must also remember, in the election of 2005, the by-election, you recall, Tim? Sarah Flood resigned and prompted a by-election in Central Castries.
I think the by-election was 2006.
Right. And so why do you think that Richard Frederick ran that election as an independent? He ran it as an independent because this was Compton's own reluctance. This was the result of it, to have him as part of the United Workers' Party as a bona fide member. I mean, so I am disappointed on many fronts, because I know, Tim, that if you don't have the right people in the cabinet, you can have sovereign wealth funds, you can put extra police on the streets, you can do all that you want, but it is going to be an exercise in futility if the politics of it is not sorted out. And so, Tim, could you imagine Mario Michel? Could you imagine Mario Michel including Richard Frederick in his cabinet if he was the leader of the Labour Party? Mario Michel, you know very well, because you covered him quite a bit. And you remember Mario Michel refusing to defend drug dealers? You remember that?
Yeah, I've heard that.
You remember him being that kind of principled guy who have said that, look, I am not going to use my skills, my legal professionalism to defend criminals and to defend drug lords, right? So what I'm trying to get at here, Tim, is how weak Philip J. Pear is. And not even Stephenson King at times, because don't forget that Stephenson King was the one who wrote a letter and sent it via Janine Compton to the U.S. Embassy to ask them to supply him with whatever dirt he had on Richard Frederick. So you see, they all know, Tim, they all know this at the back of their head, that something is fundamentally wrong with the current housing minister. But if we are going to bury our heads in the sand like ostriches, we are never, ever, Tim, going to solve the problem. Look at the way the man parades on television. And, one of your callers there, who just called, would recall very well. There was a lady, a former media woman named Barbara Jacobs, who would have complained about the Chaussee Road traffic situation when they were opening the Ministry of Housing building. You recall this? And she just complained about the traffic, and Richard Frederick goes on his show and attacks her in the most vile manner. And so you want me to support and be comfortable. Tim, we are on the brink. We are on the brink of losing the St. Lucia that we know if we do not fix it. And all of us have a responsibility, whether we are people who support sovereign wealth funds or people who are supporting this regime, to use our collective voices to make sure that the bully never ever takes a seat in government again. We must make sure that we leave a better country for the next generation that is coming. There's nothing good that anybody can publicly say about Richard Frederick. Now, Tim, I am sorry for taking up your time. I know that you have many other callers. And I did say to you that I plan to call on Friday because I know I will have a lot to say. But it's bye for now. I wouldn't want to tie up the line.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Just heard there from one of the deputy political leaders of the opposition, UWP, Mr. Dominic Fady. Still to come more of your calls, your WhatsApp messages, and of course, Amanda will be going through the discussions in the chat room. This is the most monitored talk show in the world.
There is only one option when they arrive. Our services will make the dead look alive. With Bouteille and Beaufort accessibility. Remember, we have the only private cemetery. No one can match our prices from coffins to corsage. Personalized service you get when Lazarus take charge. Quality service, no package to make your wallet bleed. Lazarus is your true friend in your time of need.
NewsSpin is transforming how you move. With our new electric vehicle charging stations, getting a quick and reliable charge is easier than ever. From Rodney Bay to Dennery, Vieux-Fort and Soufriere, we've got you covered. Our cutting-edge network offers both fast and standard charging options. Convenient, efficient, and always ready when you are. Just download the Flash Charge app from Google Play or the Apple App Store, and with a few simple taps, you can set up an account and link it to a credit card. Find a station or scan the QR code to start charging in seconds. Lucilac is powering your journey and driving us toward a cleaner, greener future. Charge ahead with Lucilac's EV stations. Lucilac electric vehicle chargers, powering progress, energizing the future.
It all started with a penny. For over 85 years, we have invested in our farmers, fishermen, people, and our country. When we were called to serve, we were here. We understand what is valuable to our people and our country. That is why we support all industries, including tourism. We are the bridge towards a brighter future and economic growth. When our people, government, and businesses called upon us, we were here. 85 years later, First National Bank St. Lucia Limited is here for you.
Here's a fun fact. In just 29 seconds, you can say goodbye to paper bills forever. Seriously, in 29 seconds. That's less time than this ad. Head over to discoverflow.co or visit us in-store and update your contact information now. By October 1st, your bills will be digital, easy to access, secure, and hassle-free. So what are you waiting for? This ad still has 2 seconds left, and you could have already gone paperless.
You know that feeling when you have an uncontrollable desire for fried chicken? That's the KFC. A substance that stimulates your senses to identify the aroma of a secret recipe or an extra crispy crunch from any distance. It's invisible to the naked eye, but you can feel it traveling throughout your body, taking control. All so you can enjoy a juicy bite of KFC. Ignite your senses with KFC.
It's the Tile Thursday specials. The sale you've been waiting for is finally here, happening this Thursday at the Tile Gallery. Whether you're renovating your kitchen, bathroom, or updating your entire home, home. Don't miss out on the chance to save big on high-quality tiles that will elevate any space. Mark your calendars for Tile Thursday specials, the last Thursday of every month. You can save up to 50% off on selected tiles. Located at M&C Home Depot in Sunville. Hurry in! These amazing deals are in-store only, and supplies are limited, so be sure to grab yours while you can. Remember, Tile Thursday only happens once a month, so don't miss out. Visit the Tile Gallery this Thursday. See in-store for details.
It is well known by all St. Lucian professional tradesmen and even homeowners that European-made tools are the best. Well, guess what? Europa Hardware is having a massive promotion on the Metabo brand of power tools. From impact drills to angle grinders, jigsaws to rotary hammers, sanders and hot air guns. All at unbeatable, jaw-dropping prices. Don't let your tools let you down. Come to Europa and stay standing with a proud in-the-hand tool from Metabo. Call us at 452-0763 or visit us in Massat Grosile. Europa, we service what we sell.
Are you tired of going from doctor to doctor, spending time and money, yet still not getting the answers you need? Now, at La Clinique du Corps Diagnostic Center of Excellence, we bring you the latest in medical technology, our state-of-the-art radiation-free full-body MRI. With unmatched accuracy, we can detect illnesses early, giving you the answers you deserve and the treatment you need, saving lives and saving money. No doctor referral needed. Results in just 24 to 48 hours. Plus, a free consultation with a doctor to explain all your results in detail. Don't wait. Take advantage of this special offer and book your full body MRI at our Cocoville, Rodney Bay, or Castries locations. Call 451-6559 now. La Clinique du Corps. Your health is our priority.
This is the most monitored talk show in the world. It is called NewsSpin. It's on Power 97.9 FM. It's also on the NewsSpin Facebook page, as well as the NewsSpin YouTube channel. And coming up this evening, 8:30 on DBS Television, Newsmaker Live. I have a special guest. He wants to contest one of the island's 17 constituencies in the upcoming general election. So that individual will be my guest on this evening's Newsmaker Live on DBS Television at 8:30. Amanda, what is happening in that beautiful chat room, according to Trump? That beautiful chat room.
A few comments from earlier. Someone says a country probably can't have a viable sovereign wealth fund if it continuously operates in deficits. The idea, however, is noble and needed. I hope it becomes possible before long. Now the comment reads, "You're like too much Roro. You'll want another day like yesterday." Someone says here, no politician should be on any sovereign wealth fund board, period. Another comment reads, "You know that this will be another Cinderella bank account if managed by the SLP government." Someone says here, "So you said that you have a file big so because the police just kept on feeding you with information. Now you're saying that you can just call your people at the archives and ask them for all the information on Dominic Fede and you'll get it."
He was not referring literally to that institution called the National Archives. I think he was referring to a particular archive. Call an individual to get information from that particular archive. But then the National Archive that is headed by my good friend Mrs. Margot Thomas, not that department.
Another comment, it appears that the minister has dirt on everyone of them. That's why they are afraid to make public the impacts report, because if the minister goes down, the whole bunch of them are coming down too. And the commentary reads, "We can't keep making allegations about those we don't like just because we can. To be credible in our criticism, we must support that we state with facts. Allegations, no matter how enticing, are not facts." That's it for now, Tim.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for that update. And still to come, you'll be hearing from the Prime Minister, Philip J. Pierre, trying to sing a song that was originally performed by Rick Wayne. All that and more still to come in our remaining moments. We have 452-2979, WhatsApp calls and messages, 716-2026. Let's hear from Mr. Bermuda. While we have not heard from him, he's on the WhatsApp platform. Good afternoon.
979.
Mr. Bermuda, good afternoon to you, sir.
Journalist of the Year. 3 times Journalist of the Year, Mr. Timothy Poleon. Long time no see.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Long time no hear.
What's in your mind?
Amanda, You're doing a great job, Amanda. Keep it up.
Thank you, caller.
My Banadel boys and Conway boys, good afternoon to y'all. Tim, Richard Frederick, a.k.a. Barabbas. Here's it, Senator Fede, tackled him yesterday on a show. He told me he going to deal with the man on his show on Thursday night. Huh? You got the whole world listening to you, Tim, yesterday. But he want to go on his show. You know why? Only idiots listen to him. Only idiots listen to Richard Frederick. Okay? Another thing. Let me tell you something. We already gone, $6 billion gone. No boy know where it gone. No boy knows where it gone, Tim. 6 billion with a B. And you gonna trust that bogus guy in Trump government with another fund? Really? Who does that? Who does that? With another fund? So they can thief again? Have a nice day, Tim.
Thank you so much for calling, sir. 452-2979, 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 71626. We have a call via WhatsApp. Good afternoon to you. You are on the air. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon to you, caller.
Hi. How are you? Long time.
I'm okay. Good afternoon to you.
Amanda, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking, caller.
Tim, I noticed Galaxy has risen from the ashes. They donated, I think, over $400,000 US to OKEU.
Mm-hmm.
Is that check to fool St. Lucians into silence? I'm just asking because I heard that nobody could find Galaxy. Galaxy had disappeared, and now Galaxy has reappeared and given Minister Ernest Hilaire a check for $400,000 US for OKEU. It's quite convenient, isn't it? Something is fishy. You understand? They're trying to. That is my opinion. I think that's a way to cover up tracks. But St. Lucians don't get distracted by that, because that $400,000 is like petty cash compared to what Galaxy has made by selling our passports. So I think, Tim, you need to investigate this thing a little deeper. Something is going on. Okay, that's my take on it.
Okay, caller.
Okay?
All right.
And I've said so on your show before, and I'll repeat it again. I got a lot of how they saying it, licks for saying it. Richard Frederick is one of the most smartest politicians in the whole Caribbean. Okay? One of the most smartest. By any means necessary, Richard will make sure that he hold on to power and hold on to his seat. Okay? So let's see where that goes. That's all I have to say on that.
All right.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you so much for calling. Earlier this week, during a pre-cabinet press briefing, the Prime Minister took the opportunity to display his ability to sing, his vocal skills. And at the time, he was paying tribute to the late Malcolm Locks McGarren, who passed away recently, a well-known St. Lucian musician who passed away recently in the UK.
Condolences, of course, for he was called Malcolm Locks. Malcolm Locks McGarren. He was, again, very early started in the business of singing. He was a reggae singer. He performed very well. Again, part of our history that must be, I'm sure people like Rick Wayne would know him very well as far as his performance. Because Rick Wayne himself was also a singer. I don't know if many of you, I know many of you probably know him now as a journalist and a talk show host. He was a singer. He was a song called In My Imagination. I can't sing it like him, but he was a singer, Rick Wayne, you know. So yeah, no, I say he was a singer. So he was, you know. I'm sure Rick knows Malcolm very well. But even next you speak to him, tell him to give you a verse of In My Imagination.
We've never met, we've never touched,
we've never kissed. But in my imagination, your loving kisses thrill me through the night. We've never met, we've never touched, we've never kissed. But in my imagination, your loving kisses thrill me through the night.
In my imagination, Rick Wayne. Finally, our NewsSpin news of the day. The NewsSpin news of the day reads, Trump says he's given advisors instructions for Iran to be obliterated if it assassinates him. Trump says he has given advisors instructions for Iran to be obliterated if it assassinates him. Our NewsSpin news of the day. Don't forget, coming up this evening, 7 o'clock, the DBS News World, and again at 8:30, News Make Alive. My special guest, a politician who wants to win a seat in the upcoming general election. My name is Timothy Poleon. Be safe and goodbye.